Okay, well, I have 9 o'clock. We'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll continue with agenda review. Is there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Commissioners' reports on committee assignments. Anybody?
Short ones first, is that?
Short ones? You want to start, Kip?
Yeah, mine's relatively short. It seemed a lot busier the last couple weeks, but actually only had several things going on after our last board meeting. I got up to the MICA Association meeting. Everything's moving along fairly well up there. They are just kind of in the lull of waiting for everybody to get rolling again. And then we were off to Mayors and Clerks Association and got to listen to someone speak about terrorism, which was actually a very interesting conversation. They had a good turnout, I thought, at the meeting. There were several mayors there and about 20 people, so it was good to see that getting rolling back up again. And then I was at South Central Workforce meeting. A lot of grants coming through to help people that are unemployed get back into the workforce. And then that night I was at MVAC meeting, which went really well, and I actually got appointed chair of the organization that I sit on, the community development part, which also puts me on the basically the executive committee board. So we'd be an arm of the whole board and can make decisions on behalf of the board. So that was kind of exciting. And that brings me up to today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. Mark?
After our work session on the 9th, I did go out to open house on the New Vision feeds, and Against Vance was there. That was interesting. And then September 10th, I went to the community farm, the open house there, Rego Park. And then the 11th, we did, as Kip said, the mayors and clerks, and yeah, it was a guy from a former, I think it was St. Paul, or no, former Twin Cities police officer. That was Plymouth.
Yeah.
It was Plymouth, and he became the expert on counterterrorism in the United States and what we can do here to be aware and prepare. And then I did on the 18th. I just had our Partners for Affordable Housing, our board meeting, and that's moving along. Of course, I can't raise money until after the United Way is done, and so everybody do their part with United Way, and that'll help. And that really, that ends it for me. Thank you.
Vance?
Well, on September 9th, I had a Children's Museum board meeting on site. I was at the new museum area there, and then I also was with Mark with the New Vision Feeds open house. We're privileged that they decided to pick Mankato as a site, and I think they should have a really nice area there. Also the community farm, I was out there. On September 11th, I was asked to have lunch aboard the historic dinner car for the Union Pacific up at the St. Paul Union Depot.
Nice.
And that was, we had information on different rail issues that was going on. And met up there with a lot of the state legislators and senators and other commissioners were there that were involved with transportation issues across the state. Also, then I came back, and that evening we had an open house for the Children's Museum. And you know, that was I'm always amazed every time I go into that area with the Children's Museum is what kind of things we're gonna have for the children in Mankato and the Mankato area is really exciting to see. On September 12th, I had my All Seasons Arena board meeting. On September 16th, at a regional transportation forum in Owatonna for transportation, and And it was for the Transportation Alliance. I went over there. On September 17th, there was a Aurora Solar Project overview in Faribault that I drove over for and talked about the Eastwood facility, which is going to be just over by Eagle Lake, just on the Mankato side of the of County Road 86. So it'll actually be annexed into the city of Mankato when it gets built. But it's going to have a 5.5 megawatt capacity, and it's going to sit on approximately 50 acres of land. It's kind of exciting to see what, everything that's going on there. And then yesterday, I was downtown for the Nuns on the Bus, which is get out the vote and
You signed the bus, huh?
sign the bus. Yeah, you'll see my name on the bus. Yep. Is really great to see a group of people get together and try to be nonpartisan, just get out the vote, and show our democracy and see how great we have it here in the United States to be able to do that. And this morning I'm my airport commission, and that's it for me.
Sounds good.
Busy.
Yep.
Sounds busy.
Drew?
Mine's fairly short. Our last board meeting, of course, was September 9th. And then we went into a county work session that same day where we talked about our 2015 budget issues and had some good discussion. September 12th, on Friday, I attended the Region 9 Renewable Energy Task Force meeting at our Intergovernmental Center here in Mankato. And the meeting included legislative information and discussions with Representative Kathy Breinart from District 19B and Representative Clark Johnson from District 19A, and both attended the meeting, and it was really a very good meeting. There were some issues that came up I won't discuss here, but things that happened contractually with energy issues that roadblock sometimes progress and trying to move forward with solar or even wind power. And so it was a good discussion. And then on that same day, I went over to New Ulm to the Quartzsite Quarry facility there, and they had an open house and luncheon, and it included a quarry operations tour. It was very interesting to see that operation. I guess it's been going on for, I think, close to 150 years, something like that. And Southern Minnesota Construction is the operator, and the owner is the Old Castle. It's the Midwest group.
Ireland.
Yeah, they're Irish, aren't they, or are they
Yep,
Scottish?
from Ireland. No, it's Irish.
Is it
company.
Irish? Okay. And that was an enjoyable time just to see how they automated everything now. They used to have about 16, 17 people out there in the quarry working. Now I think it's down to 4 or 5 because it's all automated. There's a guy sitting way up high in a huge thing, oversees everything, and you see all these conveyor belts, moving everything around and grinding and different sizing, and it's just all automated. So it's quite interesting to see how they've gotten to that point. And they talked about the history of that quartzite that basically is the crust of the earth right there that comes through. So that completes mine. And I was gone for a week out in California too, almost a week, for some family issues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. I just had a couple of things to add. Of course, on September 11th, I attended the courthouse security work group at the MCIT building in St. Paul. Chief Justice Gildea chaired the meeting, and we're talking about courthouse security things around the state. This group was organized in response to various security issues that have happened at courthouses around Minnesota. So I'm excited to represent AMC and Blue Earth County at that work group. Of course, then I had mayors and clerks down in Amboy that night. Had a good meeting down there. And then this last Friday, I attended a get-together down at a farm down by Amboy. It was a Southeast Asia trade team of agricultural professionals from Southeast Asia visited our area through the soybean growers, and they toured 2 farms down by Amboy and other things in the area, and then we got together and had some networking time. And there were people from Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. And I hope they learned as much from me as I learned from them. 45 people, all ag professionals. Most of them were soybean buyers from around the country, and they're very interested in our area and how we grow soybeans, and it was a fascinating time.
Did you guys have a dinner then or anything?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, we had a dinner, and
In Amboy or?
in a machine shed outside.
Brought it in.
Outside.
Catered.
Outside
Can't
of,
beat it.
yeah, in a machine shed
That's
out.
interesting.
And it was interesting, I hope they preserve this, but when everybody left, there was a grease board in this machine shed, and everybody signed thank you in their language on the grease board.
Wow.
So I hope they
Take a
preserve it.
photograph of it or something.
Yeah, just a fascinating group. It just helps us realize how much we're involved in the world right here in Blue Earth County. So that brings us up to today, and I think we're right at the 9:10 or a little after, and we have Mr. Lloyd Vollmer on the agenda for public comment. Lloyd, come forward, and we're happy you're here. Thank you for being here.
How's this, if I just sit right here?
Yeah, that'll be
That'll work.
perfect.
I had to always speak up, my wife and I raised 8 girls and 3 boys, so if I didn't speak up, I didn't get anything to eat.
Anyway,
You have a
I wanted
good
to meet with
voice,
the
Lloyd.
board, I haven't been here for a long time, and bring you up to date a little bit on where we're at with the Williams County Park out there, the Williams Nature Center County Park. I just like to take a minute and bring you some of the history, so some of you that aren't quite familiar with that area out there, how we got there. It all started back in the 60s when the Frank Belzerzak and Art Ogle and Ev Ort started the old ACT committee. Some of you remember. The Active Community Thought tried to make Mankato area move forward. I was working I'm a retired NSP employee. I worked down on Front Street where the Civic Center is at now. And I was also outdoor of the Mankato Free Press and president of Key City Conservation Club. One of the gentlemen came to me and asked me if I would take on one of the projects in their ACT group, and that was to try to expand Minneopa State Park. It was 56 acres, and the word had it that the state was going to drop it as a state park. And they were concerned about that. It's been good for the Mankato area, and if they lost it as a state park here, we'd take a step backwards. So they asked me if I would chair the expansion of the park if we had a way of doing it. I said I'd do it if I could get a co-chair, and so Jack Jones was my secretary at the time, and he agreed to co-chair, and so we took on Minneopa as a project. We worked with Gus Johnson, of course, and Kelly Gage, who were in the Senate and the House, to try to get some funds available. And we decided to try to buy the Setman farm and move our big concern was to try to save Minneopa Creek from the highway down all the way to the river. So we decided to buy the Setman farm and try to buy the Williams pipeline property, which is 56 acres there, across the creek on the other side. And so we went to the Setmans, and they were receptive to it. And we began negotiating with them. And then I went to the Williams company and asked them if they would be receptive to sell their property. They said they'd just take it under advisement, and so we went ahead and started to purchase the property. We bought the property from Setmans, and as we were doing it, I got a letter from the Ed Williams stating that they were not interested in having a state park in there. So they were not going to let us buy the property. So we went ahead and got a 10-acre strip across the top of the creek to protect it from home building. We bought that from them, and that's why there's some state park signs out there on the Williams property. There is a 10-acre strip, as some of you may now know that, along the east side of the river that is owned by the state of Minnesota. It's part of the state park. So the entire creek is actually in the state park. So then the property sat empty for a few years, and it was a pasture as the Septmans farmed it and used it for raising goats. And there was no brush in there. It was just basically a woods. One Sunday afternoon, my wife and I were walking one of my daughters out there on a hike. It occurred to me that this would make a beautiful place for an outdoor nature center, and it was perfectly flat. And what a better situation for somebody that was handicapped. And so we decided to kind of maybe come up with a plan to make it, get it into a nature center. And so I went to I can't think of MJ Graphics and asked him if he'd design a brochure for me that we could sell the city on and try to raise some money to build a nature center. This was even before I went to the Williams Company to ask them if they'd sell it to us. So anyway, we did a beautiful brochure together. Dick Lutz threw me over the property in the spring of the year, and it was then when we realized that we had 14 Indian mounds on the property, because the Indian mounds had thawed out before the rest of the area. And we didn't even know they were there until the photographs from the airplane showed the Indian mounds. Well, anyway, we designed the center, come up with a budget of $101,000 to build a center and a log cabin and trail and all of this. And Kelly Gage put me on the plane, and we flew down to met with Ned Williams in the boardroom in the Williams Pipeline Company in Tulsa. And I laid my plan out to them on the table. Our board took a look at it. They liked the idea and said they'd get back to me. So we sit back and we sit here, and I have, and some of you may know this, in the County Historical Society here in Mankato, I have donated a complete scrapbook on the construction of the Williams Center. It has all of the history, all the letters, all the newspaper articles, everything in that historical scrapbook. And there's also a scrapbook there on the Minneopa State park expansion, if anybody's interested in how we had to go through that. But anyway, I went down there and I got a letter back from Ned Williams. It just shocked me, because I had heard in the meantime that we had a local contractor that offered him $1 million for that property. They wanted to put a quarry in there and mine the silica sand out of it. Anyway, it scared us when we heard that. I got a letter from the Williams, which is in the scrapbook, stating if we built the center according to our plan and worked it as an outdoor nature center and built a 50-foot fire break between their property of the tank farm and the nature center, they would donate the property to me. In order to accept funds for something like this, I'd have to set up a nonprofit corporation, and rather than do that, I went to the Mankato Area Foundation, and they agreed to take it on as a project. And so through the Mankato Area Foundation, we accepted the property, built the center. My family worked their tails off out there. We put in split rail fence all the way around the bluffs to protect people from falling down the cliffs. And we mowed the trail with my mower every couple of weeks. And we cleared the trail and got it all ready. And then we went to work on getting the cabin built. People donated everything. Mankato Rental donated a jackhammer that we used to build the split rail fences with. After we got it built, we ran it a couple of years with volunteers. It didn't work out. So then we came to the county board and asked the county, and we had first asked the Williams Company if they would be receptive to having the county take it over as a county park. They agreed to that. So we came to the county board, and they agreed to take it on as a county park. It became the Williams Center County Park. Right away after the county took it over, first couple of years, it was agreed that the gate would be locked at 9 o'clock and there would be security on the property. And it wasn't too long until we began to notice that there was some problems out there. First of all was the interpreter stations. We had 14 interpreter stations with 14 benches that I had built, logs that the Henniker company sawed for me. And we noticed that the interpretive centers were being destroyed, then the benches. And then the county, there was a problem with the split rail fence and they started disappearing, and that totally disappeared. So then we came down to basically a trail and 2 overlooks and a log cabin. And it has just basically deteriorated to the point that I almost was disgusted to go out there. Went out this morning and I don't live in Mankato anymore. I lived here 65 years. I'm at the Minnesota Veterans Home in Hastings now, where I hope gets taken care of up there. But I do have an interest in the Mankato area, and I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this area, and I like to see something happen. Now, we have an opportunity here to either do 1 or 2 things out there. I want to just back up a second. First of all, the Army Corps of Engineers came in when we built the center and built the fire break, 50-foot fire break. That was imperative with the William Company to keep a fire break between our property and the tank farm. They were concerned that when it was going to grow up to brush, which it has, they could have fires out there, and they didn't want a fire in their tank farm. So we agreed to that. The Army Reserve come out there and they dug all the trees out, cleaned it out pretty well, and that was the end. It was the last time it was cleaned out, till 3 years ago. I told Dean, I says, Dean, if we don't clean the fire break and take care of that center, we're going to lose it. Some of you may know this, some of you may not, that in the letter which is in the Historical Society, it specifically states that if we do not maintain the fire break and use it as an outdoor nature center and take care of it, that it returns to the property, returns to the property owner, which now is, of course, Magellan. And I've talked to Magellan a little about it, but I haven't specifically concerns about it a little bit, but they are concerned about the fire break. If the fire break isn't maintained and they send you a certified letter stating they want their property back, you lost $1 million piece of property, maybe a lot more. And you can't really do a heck of a lot about it. The county attorney told me that a while back, that the letter specifically states that we maintain that. So that's where I'm coming from. My concern is, where does the county board want to go with the county park out there? I'm familiar with your county park systems. I've worked with county parks and trails all over the state. I bought the Cicada Trail from Mankato to Faribault. Some of you may not know that. I bought the Sioux Line Trail from Wayzata out to Hastings. I've been involved in parks all over the country and the states and around this area. And I have my feet on the ground a little bit when it comes to buying some of this property. But I'm really concerned about what that property is going to happen out there if we don't maintain that fire break. Now, 3 years ago, I went to Dean and I said, Dean, we've got to clean the fire break. I took my chainsaw, I still could walk in, I went out there and my son and I cleaned out a couple of trees that were still hanging in there and cut them up. And then Dean came in with some heavy equipment and cleaned out the trail. He said to me, he says, now we're going to plant alfalfa in here and maintain this fire break. Then he's been out there, you can see there's absolutely nothing been done. It's growing up, grass and brushes this high again. It's just a disaster waiting for something to happen. The people have been using and abusing the center since it started because there's been no security out there. The gate was never shut after the first couple of years. It's open 24 hours a day. I went out there this morning at 6 o'clock. I drove down early to ride the trail. The lady was walking her dog already out there. Said she loved the trail, and the boys were just coming when I left to clean the big tree that blew over the trail. But I watched the center go to hell, and my question to the county board is very frank. Do you want it as a county park? You cannot, and you know as well as I do, you cannot have a county park, a state park, a city park, I don't care what kind of a park, that you can't have, or a trail as far as that goes, without supervision and maintenance. You need both of those to make them operate. If you don't have the supervision, you used to have a good caretaker on the county park on Lake George. Used to have a caretaker on, I think you still do, on the one on Madison Lake. I visited Laurel Lake County Park. It's a beautiful park. I've been down there for funerals and weddings and everything else. And when I was there on a Sunday one time to a friend's funeral meal, and Bob Landsteiner, who used to live in Mableton, his wife died. We went out there and had their reception out there after the funeral. And there was a guy mowing the lawn on a Sunday, caretaker in there taking care of that. It was a beautiful park. I don't know what, I haven't been there since, but you cannot maintain and expect people to leave a property alone without supervision. It's plain and simple. And I know it costs money. You can't have a full-time caretaker on every county park. It's impossible. But you have to realize, if you don't, then you have to have some kind of police supervision or whatever after dark, because the people will destroy it. People are like animals. They'll go in, and I'm sorry to say this, if you don't watch them, they'll destroy anything they can get their hands on. It's just nature for some people. And Minneopa is the Williams Center is no different. Now you're going to get buffalo into Minneopa next year, and it's going to bring a lot of people to the Mankato area. And my question to the county board is this: if you don't intend to take care of the center, the outdoor classroom in the first few years was used by all the schools in the area. Came here with buses to go there to that outdoor classroom. The benches I built, and even the teacher's desk that I built out of logs myself. There, I drove in there this morning, and there was nothing but a pile of grass. There isn't even one bench left. And I'm sure there hasn't been a school in there for several years going to outdoor classrooms. Something that this school needs, and every school needs, is outdoor classrooms. So that was where we came from. We built the center, and it's gone to hell. And it makes me sick to come out there and see what's happened. Now, if you don't want it, folks, I'm going to ask you right point blank. If the county board can't take care of it, the trail is definitely going to need to be resurfaced. You resurfaced the parking lot this summer, which was good. And if you don't want the center, I'd like to hear it right from you people. Because if you don't want to take care of it, you're not going to keep it. You'll lose it. But rather than lose it, I'd rather try to save it. And I think I have a way. And all I want to know is if you people don't want it, then I want to hear it. And I will start proceeding to try to do something with the property. It'd be compatible with it's being used for now, but it won't be a county park. And I just want you to people, that's where I'm coming from. So I just, if you got any questions, maybe you can answer them.
Great. Good. Thank you for your comments, Lloyd. I think this is probably something we will have to discuss. And we have your contact information, don't we?
I'll give you my card. I live in Hastings. I got my
Okay.
phone number up there.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to come down and meet with anybody
Perfect.
on anything on it, anytime. And I've talked to Dean for the last, Dean was always a friend. We went out there, and Dean, I know his hands are tied when it comes to budgets. You have a budget, but I think, I don't know if the county realizes, I know you know it, but you realize that everything is always tight with money. But if you don't budget to take care of something and take care of it, it'll disappear.
Okay.
And so yeah, I know if you don't have the money to take care of it and rebuild the center, if the trail's going to need to be resurfaced, You'd have to almost go right now to go back out there and start over. The interpreter stations, I don't know if you knew this, we had beautiful interpreter stations planned for the area with huge billboard behind glass interpreting a particular area of the park. We had a grandiose plan. It's all in the brochure down there at the County Historical Society. If any of you want to take a look at it, you can see what our plan was, what we got, and how far we came with it. But,
Perfect. We have to move.
I
We're
know
behind
you
on
need-
our.
I know you need to move on, and you need to talk about it,
Yeah.
discuss it. I'll be glad to give the administrator my card, and I'll be backing out and let you people talk about it. I just wanted you people to be aware of what's happened out there. It isn't the only county park you got problems with. You got problems with the one at out there at north of St. Clair. It's disgusting to watch these beautiful parks go to hell without being taken care of.
If you give your card to Jesse,
Well,
and we'll be in
thank you.
touch. Thank you so much, Lloyd.
Thanks, Lloyd, so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for all
Thanks.
you've done, Lloyd.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on with the, we'll adjourn the county board meeting and move on to the EDA meeting.
Morning, Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Morning.
Morning.
Patty?
Okay, we'll call the EDA meeting to order. We'll start with the agenda review. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Carried. The minutes. Everyone had an
I'll move.
opportunity to look at the minutes?
Yeah, I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we now have the 5-year and 2015 annual plan public meeting. Do you want to say anything, Patty, before we open it up for public comment, or do you?
Well, the last time I was here, several weeks ago, we talked about what is in the 5-year and the annual plan.
Mhm.
Basically, we're gonna continue what we do with the housing authority. We try to, serve low-income, elderly, disabled families. And we're gonna continue to do that. We're gonna continue to maintain our public housing units. But we have posted the plan for public comment for the last month, and we wanted to have the public hearing to see if there were any other comments, people that might want to attend and discuss the plan before we adopt it and submit it to the HUD office.
Great, okay. At this time, I'll open the meeting for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak about the 5-year plan or the annual plan, please come to the podium and state your name. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the 5-year and the 2015 annual plan? Please come to the podium. Last time, is there anyone that would like to speak to the 5-year plan and the annual plan? Please come to the podium. If there's no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board.
And we move to approve.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I've got
Go ahead.
just a few comments. At the last meeting we talked about was, we're gonna move to possibly start selling off some properties down in wherever it's decided to do it. Maybe a few in Mapleton.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna go to sort of a voucher system to help give some more autonomy.
Well,
And
it would
use-
be, when you move to the new way that HUD wants to look at the public housing units is to supply vouchers instead of a public housing subsidy. So the residents in the public housing units would get a project-based voucher in that unit. So instead of a public housing subsidy, there would be voucher assistance that would stay with that unit. So whoever moves into that property would receive the voucher. When they move out, the voucher stays with the unit.
Stays with the unit, okay. And then the only other thing that was on my mind at heart the last couple of years is that I've become aware of people who, you know, let's say they do a year in jail or 3 years in prison or something, and I know the system isn't perfect, but it's very difficult for offenders who would like to try to make a change in their life to actually find a place to sleep when they move to Mankato, or if this is their home area even. Many of them can't move back home to their families. They're not allowed to. They have felony charges on them, so that limits their, it puts a boundary or a barrier, not a boundary, to their ability to find a place to live. And I was wondering, is there anything that we can do with the EDA, and if we, maybe, I know this isn't the perfect time to discuss all of it, but I'd like to request that it be explored somehow between now and next year's annual plan review or whatever we do, to see if there's some way that we can develop a program to help offenders who are wanting to improve their lives to find a place to live. And it's very difficult.
It is very difficult, and it is something we can explore. Currently, federal statute says that we cannot serve anyone that has a lifetime sex offender registrant.
Mhm.
We cannot serve anyone that has a history of violent behavior or drug involvements. If they have felonies for theft, other things that aren't violent or drug related, we do serve them. So we check everyone's background history for violent behavior and drug involvements, and those folks have to be screened out according to the federal regulations.
Okay, so if they got into a fight with somebody or something, that's a violent crime.
That could be a violent crime. However, if it's like a 5th degree assault, which could be a slap,
Yeah.
we consider all of that. When we turn someone
do.
down and they come back and explain what happened and said they've been through maybe anger management, that they've turned their life around, all of that is considered. Now, if they murdered somebody or an armed robbery, we have to be careful with our public
Oh,
housing
no, I
units, because
understand
we
that,
don't,
yeah.
you
Safety.
know, well, yes, and we want to be good neighbors. And because most of our units are scattered site, we do want to be good neighbors. So it's a kind of a fine line. We don't want our public housing units to be where all the offenders live, of course.
Right.
So you know, it has to be a fine line on how you do that, because you know from a lot of the meetings that you have, the homeowners in the area don't, you know, they want to have good neighbors too.
Yeah.
So you know, you kind of have to look at the best way to use the scarce resources we have for affordable housing. But I understand what you're saying, because we get calls all the time. We get letters from people that are getting out of jail,
Yeah.
wanting to know if we can help them.
And there's
So-
very little available, very little.
Well, right now, there's little available for everybody.
Yeah. Do you ever interact at all with Josh Milo or any of the staff in our corrections department here for the county regarding these issues? Or
Once in a while, but they haven't come to me and made any requests.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. Well, thank you, I just wanted to mention that, and
Okay.
wish there was something we could do, maybe we could put it on for a work session or something, I don't know, but it's very prevalent in this community, and every year it becomes aware to me that offenders who seem to indicate they wanna change and move on, and they get a job, they even get a job, but
Mm-hmm.
their housing is very hard.
It's difficult.
Yeah, and then they move in with maybe some old friend or offender, and all of a sudden, they're sucked into some of the old, or they're with people who are doing things that are wrong, because that's the only place they can lay their head, you know, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, is there anything else? If
Thank
not,
you.
Thank you, Patty.
I move to adjourn.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Okay, we'll call the county board meeting back into session, and we'll move on to the Regional Radio Board Joint Powers Agreement.
Morning, Darren.
Hey,
Good
Darren.
morning.
Hey, Darren.
This morning, bringing some modifications to the Joint Powers Agreement for the South Central Minnesota Regional Radio Board. The state made some changes to the statutes that govern the powers of the radio board, and what we're trying to do is modify the Joint Powers Agreement to reflect those changes and bring us into line with the other regions are working on throughout the state as well. you all had a summary of the changes that are being made to the joint powers agreement, and really the gist of it is to build on top of the existing structure we have with the radio board, to bring a uniform approach to the new emergency communications technologies that we're seeing come down the road, and just expand the powers of the radio board to be able to provide some central governing for that, bring some consistency between the members of our radio region here.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
It just appears that there's a few language changes then, and then changing the name of the board.
Yes, the language changes just bring it into line with the new statutes governing the powers and responsibilities.
And the name.
And the name changes from a radio board to emergency, I can't remember where they hid that in here.
It's right down here. Let's see.
Emergency communications,
South
Re-
Central Minnesota
yeah,
Regional
Regional
Emergency
Communi-
Communications
yes.
Board.
that would be correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion at the regional board level, because not everybody was on board with this at first, because it's just a mundane, why are we changing it, you know, why can't we just do that stuff? Well, it's just not the way it works. We have to change our name in order to take on these responsibilities, or we have to put another whole entire committee together to take on those
yeah.
committees underneath that, and then keep our regional radio board. So there was a lot of spirited discussion about the name change and the way it worked, and after we had Jackie come down from the state and explain it to the regional radio board, it got full support, so.
The membership looks like it's the same too.
Correct.
Same.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Darren.
Thanks,
Darren.
Darren.
Thanks.
Thanks
Have
for
a
all
good
your
day,
work.
Darren. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to planning and zoning.
Morning, George.
Hi, George.
Hey, George.
Go ahead, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 16-14 is a request from Janet Belgard and Pat Jurgens, who is deceased. It is a request for approval of the preliminary and final plats of the Belgard addition, a 2-lot and 1 outlot subdivision located in the agricultural zone district in the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 33 Shelby Township. Mr. Leary presented the staff report. The applicant was present and had no initial comment. There was no public comment and no comment from the township. There was some discussion by the commission regarding access to the proposed southern lot. The applicant advised the commission of their intent to record an access easement for the proposed southern lot. Following the discussion, the planning commission voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval of the request to the county board, and the board action is a resolution.
Okay. We will open up the public portion of this meeting for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to PC 16-14, please come to the podium, state your name. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come to the podium and speak to PC 16-14? Last time, is there anyone that would like to speak to PC 16-14? If there's no public comment, I will close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the board for board action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just that it's on their head, I guess, to make sure there's some access. It's not really up to the county to, is it to really worry? I mean,
Right, they provided an exhibit that shows the access easement and everything, but they need to wait until the subdivision plat is recorded, and then that easement would be recorded on the
recorded
newly
inside.
created lot.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. There's no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, George.
thank
Thanks,
you.
George.
Good luck, folks.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to drainage. Craig?
Good morning.
Morning, Craig.
Morning.
How are you?
I guess we have 3 items before the board today here. Number 1 was County Ditch 50 repair project and bid award. looking for a motion to award the bid. And to explain the bid and the bid award, we have someone represented from INS Group to explain that,
Great.
make the recommendation.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Kyle Sammons from INS Group. I'm here to give the results for the County Ditch 50 repair bid opening. The engineer's estimate was $859,921.50. The low bidder was Holtmeyer Construction of Mankato with a base bid of $810,112.30. There was three bids. I should back up, I guess. There's three bids received and opened. The next low bidder was $824,970, and the highest was $1,102,947. There's also an alternate bid that was Holtmeyer was also low of $856,931.80. This bid alternate is pending on the railroad's decision on our permit that we submitted about 45 days ago. It's just we submitted a lesser permit in hopes that we could get that, and the Union Pacific kind of gets a little stringent, so we'll see what goes on with that. So I guess we open up for public comment or whatever, if you guys have questions.
Okay.
I guess if there's no questions, then it is INS Group's recommendation that you award the bid to Holtmeyer Construction.
Okay. A motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
The only discussion I had is I wrote a note to Craig, because I want to know what he thought about it too, even though INS is recommending it.
Okay.
It's good to hear it from our ditch staff that we know that they wholly concur with the recommendation.
Yeah, Holtmeyer has done, they were responsible for, actually with the contractor on County Ditch 57, that major project by Mapleton there, and they've also done some other smaller projects. I would rate their work from good to excellent. I have no complaints about Holtmeyer, so.
I'm just really happy that we got a local, you know, construction company that's gonna be, that's sitting there. Holtmeyer Construction's done some very good work for Blue Earth County and the city of Mankato. So, we're privileged to have them, doing this work.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Hey, Carl.
Thanks, Kyle.
Next, for ditches, we have, we need to set hearing dates for the transfer of public ditches, actually 3 different ditches. Talking to Kurt Dieter, he actually recommended that instead of having the 3 ditches at one particular time, actually set 3 different times. So I'm going to be recommending the board set the hearing time for the first meeting, which would be October 21st. First one at 9:45 for County Ditch 12. County Ditch 46 hearing would start 5 minutes later at 9:50, followed by County Ditch 98 at 9:55. That should be sufficient based on Kurt Dieter's recommendations. Past hearings, they apparently don't last very long, so.
Okay.
I'd move approval.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second. I got it.
Discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting dates are set.
And the last one here is we have County Ditch 43. This is actually some damage was done our June 11th or storm shortly following. This is in Mankato Township. We've already done some repairs to it in an amount of $6,239.06. That is basically get it drained down, and so that at least the farmers and stuff can get access to their fields. The road is still technically closed because we haven't finished the work, and it's going to be cost about another $7,000 to complete everything on this project. So
We need to get that taken care of.
yeah, so
Is that it for,
Yeah, looks like
Yep.
yeah.
so moved?
Second.
Discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Okay, it's 9:50. Phil?
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if we wanna do the levy and budget
Good.
quick?
Yep,
And then
good
maybe we
for-
could take a 5-minute break and then have human services? Would
Good.
that be-
We'll save the best till last,
Yeah,
Phil.
yeah, good plan,
Jay.
thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I draw your attention to item number 5 in your packet. Minnesota statute requires that the proposed property tax levy for the coming year be certified by the county finance director by September 30th. That is a change from prior years where it was due by September 15th. I, along with staff, have prepared a budget, the preliminary budget. The county board has reviewed that over the summer in various work sessions. And so we're proposing for 2015 a proposed property tax levy of $30,198,127. This represents a 3.99% increase in the property tax levy over 2014. So I'm bringing that forward for the board's consideration this morning.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion?
As we've talked in their work session, that this is the high end. I think most of us are looking at lowering this levy if we can. But at least this gives us some room if some thing surprising comes up within the next couple months. And by the looks of this, along with how much Blue Earth County has grown over the last year, a large portion of our population is still going to get a tax decrease. Sadly, not the farmers, but when it comes to residential and stuff, they still will be receiving a decrease in their taxes from the county.
Okay,
I would agree with that comment. I think we've had a lot of discussion about it, and we're interested in trying to lower it a little more, but it's a good place to start.
It was at a high enough point, and yet, and some of us, hopefully, we can only go lower, yeah. Much lower.
The only comment I've got is that the last 2 years, we've put together our budgets with Bob's help and with all 5 of us talking about issues. We were able to have a 0 increase in our levy, and I think that's to be commended for Blue Earth County. There comes a time when, out of wisdom, you can't just keep going with 0 because we've got things that happen, and we've also got cost of living increases. We found out that construction and purchasing and everything has gone up, and we also know we've got requests for probably the most staff we've ever had for requests since I've been on the board in the last 5 years, and we know we're going to grant most of those, I would think. So we're looking at having to raise the amount that we levy our county. And so, but thank you, Bob, and I'm appreciative that we've been able to be fairly conservative with our property tax levy. So
I think one thing that we have to realize is that Blue Earth County and the Mankato area is increasing in size, and with that increase in size, it takes more to take care of those people, which means we have to hire more people through Blue Earth County, social services, the highway department, different things to take care of the people. And we all enjoy the extra jobs, we enjoy the building going on, but there's always a cost to that. And that cost is taken care of by the county and the city and the local governments. And that's, so we do have to take care of the people that we serve.
okay. There's no other comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 6 then in your packet is a resolution indicating the 2015 proposed budget. Again, Minnesota statute requires that the county administrator prepare and submit to the county board a proposed annual budget and long-range capital expenditure plan. We have worked diligently over the summer. Up until last week, we were still having some fairly significant changes occurring within our budget document, so it is still a work in progress. But at this point, we're proposing a preliminary budget of $86,744,321 be adopted and certified to the county finance director, and so I'm bringing that forward. We will have a budget hearing that's been scheduled for December 2nd of this year at 6 p.m. here in the county courthouse boardroom.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? There's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to do a 5-minute break now?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, good. We'll be back here at 10 o'clock. Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I have several action items that I want to bring to your attention today. The first group, 2 contracts under public health. The first of those being master grant contract that comes from the Department of Health. And this is really, the purpose of this is an oversight structure for foundation for subsequent grants in order to streamline how the funding flows through all the grants that come our way in a given year. There's no funding attached to this templated grant. The term of the grant is January 1st of 15 through December 31st of 19. Second item under public health is our immunization registry grant. Our program, as you know, is called MTRAC. Purpose of this grant agreement is with Department of Health for the county to be able to engage the work related to immunizations, protect our residents through vaccinations and prevention of disease. There was a very slight increase of $267 to this grant, which is about 1%. The award for 14-15 is $27,414.88. Term of this grant is October 1st of 14 through September 30th of 15. Second section is South Central Community-Based Initiative. A couple of items under that section, the first of those being a physical host site for the initiative in order to provide our annual conference room and catering for the psychiatric conference, which is October 14th this year. The cost of the meeting room and catering is $10,810, which is the same amount as in years past. The cost of this conference is completely offset by registration fees. It is a one-day event on October 14th of 2014. And then another contract that runs through our adult initiative, LeSueur County contracts with Blue Earth County in order for us to provide psychiatric medication management, diagnostic assessments, urgent care, and all of these services going towards LeSueur County residents just because they are without psychiatry themselves. There's also an hour a month of psychiatric consultation that Dr. Farnsworth provides to that team in LeSueur County. This is a renewal. The terms of the contract and amounts are unchanged from the previous contract, and there is a not to exceed amount of $40,000 annually. The term of this contract is August 1st of 14 through July 31st of 15. And then finally, as far as the action items go, the administrative section is just one appointment to task force committee. This is Sarah Moeller to join the mental health task force, and Ms. Moeller is the resident of Commissioner District 4. So those are the action items that I have for your attention today.
Okay.
I'll move the human service action items.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I do have one other section here of a few informational discussion items. The first of those is an attachment in your packet on our project to end long-term homelessness. You'll see this summary page, and I'll just walk through some of the highlights on it. There are 4 sections of service throughout the state of Minnesota. We're obviously in the southern section there, and the southern project is unique just because we combine counties, community partners, a lot of different government agencies and service agencies into this one collaborative project. You'll see some of the statistics that I just wanted to update you on. The average length of homelessness for the people we serve in our project is just over 5 years. Most of the people served are children and youth, just because by number, they're families that are served, but that's followed by a population over the age of 50, so those are our 2 high service areas. You'll see underneath the state of Minnesota graphic there, total households were 162. These are 13 numbers. 162 households, which includes 245 adults, children, and youth served, and about half of the people served were either children or parents and families, so there is an emphasis there. You'll see this story on Rosie, and I won't go through all that obviously, but this particular individual has a history of mental illness, chemical dependency, and gambling, and so these multiple need individuals and families that come to us are generally hard to serve and bring out a lot of complexity. The second and third paragraph of that story, you'll see some of the nice benefits are that this particular individual is able to reunite with her family, her mother, her siblings, and then her eldest son, actually, after 11 years of not having contact, came back and introduced his family to this individual too. So I think those are some really nice outcomes to the work we do. The graphic on the lower right-hand corner, you'll see 2/3 of the households are in permanent housing by the first month of enrollment, which we think is a good number, and then that builds. And you'll see we're at the 90% threshold after 3 months. So there's this graduated scale of getting people in this stable housing. I do have to say, as we get to this second page of this summary, there's a couple of things that are really tough. One is employment, and we work really hard to find employment for these individuals. A lot of times they have criminal history or impairments to their functioning that makes it very hard for them to be gainfully employed. We will take what we can get, and so sometimes it is those temporary jobs or helping people out in some practical ways. And by and large, our population served through this program are willing to do that. The other very difficult thing is, as you all know, is just finding that housing. So that graphic that we say we get up to 90% placement in 3 months, that is really difficult work by the social workers as well. You all are aware that there's a 1% vacancy rate in our community. That's extremely hard to find, just a place when you add on all these complexities of how these people come to us. A lot of landlords, wouldn't naturally want to serve those people, but we're able to work that out, and I think that's a credit to some of the people that are in the landlord business in our community, as well as our social workers trying to build those bridges. And so we're very successful, even though that's one of the hardest parts of this whole program. Somebody gonna ask a question?
Well, I was, when you're looking at that housing, you're looking more at just private sector housing?
Yeah, so it is a landlord
different
relationship. All of the individuals, that paragraph on the top of the second page talks about that all of them that we serve are below federal poverty guidelines, so that's part of what gets them into our program. So they do qualify for rental assistance. And the little box on the right side of that second page saying breaking the cycle, I'm sorry, it's the lower right side. It talks about that, it's not it either, where is it?
Six episodes of
Yeah,
homelessness,
that they have 6 episodes, there it is the upper right. One of the leading reasons for exiting the program in 2013 was leaving with subsidized housing. So they still qualify for subsidized housing even after we start with more intensive services, try to stabilize their housing situation. Look at all the financial assistance programs, which is on the left side of that second page, making sure that we have those things squared away as we can. And then the launch that we're hoping for is that they'll still probably qualify for subsidized housing, but that they will be more independent. And so that's the goal of the program. And actually that question, Commissioner, kind of leads to that box in the middle of the page. It says building skills on self-reliance, and that first paragraph kind of goes through some of the areas, the domains that we look for: housing stability, progress to the general functioning, including their welfare, their health, their independence, which we were talking about there. And of the areas that we study through our database that's called Copilot, the 3 areas that showed the most improvement were the housing stability itself, the safety issues, and the child care needs. There's 18 different domains that we have in our database that we study on each person, so we're able to look at that. All 18, there's improvements. but these are the three that were the most improved. The hardest one was actually the employment one that we talked about earlier, so.
What kind of ratio do you have there roughly for employment?
Yeah, it's
About
the
like
30, there's a statistic at the bottom of that increasing income and access to education. It says 34% of the households were
34.
employed, so
Are-
it's
are
1/3
employed?
about.
Okay.
Yeah, so they come to us without a job, about 1/3 of them find some
Okay.
decent work, and that is one of our hardest areas that we try to help for stability. Just a couple of other things on this page. One thing I'd really ask you, if you have any spare time, I know commissioners are very busy, but this little graphic with a picture of the man that was served by our program, this Robert, his story is on YouTube. If you just go out on the internet and punch that in, and you'll see it, and Andy Ellefson's the worker that was working with Robert. It's a very touching little segment. It's only about 5 or 10 minutes at the most. It's real short. I was thinking about playing it here today. It's quite powerful as far as capturing what we're up to and what we're doing. So I would ask if commissioners would have a moment to give that a look. I think it's a really nice picture of what we do. And you will see in our southern project, there's 3 different hubs. We run a hub here in Blue Earth County. We're the first one to establish this housing services back years ago. And then the 2 other, South Central Human Relations Center and Zumbro Valley, are the other providers within the Southern Regional Project. And so that's kind of the picture of that program.
I noticed when I read through this document, it said 34% of all households were employed at some point.
Right.
So I'm sure it's quite much lower than that.
It really is. It's one of the toughest. So, you know, what we usually term gainful employment is really hard to come by, and sometimes that's the individual's functioning, and sometimes it's the nature of the work, and getting employers to take a chance on somebody that does have a tough history is one of the hardest things. And so, like I say, we will take that episodic work to try to build a resume, show that the person can be an asset to an employment situation, but sometimes that takes a lot of time, and it is hit and miss, Commissioner, as you suggest.
Which of your staff then deal with this? What department?
So our homelessness team,
That's what it is.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely, and so there's really like a handful of social workers that do this, and they really are, you know, that team that's out in the community and trying to, you know, spend time with these individuals. Their caseloads are slightly smaller, but they spend a lot of time building these bridges with landlords and employers as well.
So homelessness team is directed by who?
So Andrew Peach is one of our newer supervisors, and he has both child support and this homelessness team. So he's split between those 2 units. Andrew Peach. So most of you know Andrew Ellefson.
Andy.
And
Yeah.
so that's Andy, and then Andrew goes by Andrew. So we have two in that same.
Peach.
Peach.
he's a peach of a guy.
He is. I think he's never heard that joke before, Commissioner. That's right. Right.
And he also coordinates the
Child support.
child support.
Right. So he has those 2 teams, which in no way can you say that they're related to one another, but he makes it work. So I appreciate his willingness to do that.
Thank you.
Just a couple of other quick oral updates. One is I really wanted to keep the board informed about MNsure, and things are you know, kind of going along slowly. I think some of the chronic problems we've had are still there. I wish I could say we found our way through the darkness, but we're not quite there yet. Just
Such an
one.
optimist.
Yes, how about
Excuse
that,
me.
right? And that's the good news. No, the good news is that we've dealt with a lot of the caseload growth that we expected. In the past year, August 13th to August of this year, we had 2,100 new cases, so it's a lot of volume that we've seen. We knew that was coming. It's held true. There's a couple of areas of concern still. One is what they call pending applications, and we've talked about that here, is that people come, they apply, and for one of 2 reasons, they get put into a stuck position. We call them pending applications. One is that people still need to provide verification of their work and income and other things. So if they don't turn back in that information, we get stuck, and that's part of that story. And then the other story is what we've talked about, the system itself. MNsure, they get stuck in the technology of the system, and we cannot get in there and try to find where they're at. That continues as well. So we have not really fixed those problems. But, you know, what they're trying to do is workarounds, and meanwhile, the third update is that there's all these conversion cases. So people that were on Minnesota Care as an option are now being converted over to MNsure. There's 4 waves of this change that's coming. The first wave was really small. In fact, they get progressively bigger as these waves come. The first wave, Minnesota State did themselves. It was just a few hundred cases as a test case of how to convert people. The second wave that we're into now is 700 cases for us that were people that were on Minnesota Care, and now they need to be pushed over to MNsure. And so we're in the throes of that. So that's a new wave of volume, 700. And then, to be really candid, the third and fourth wave that are going to come are bigger yet. The first of those would be actually families, and then the fourth wave will be elderly and disabled, and those are much bigger than even the 700 that we're currently dealing with. So staff know that, you know, as those waves come, that they're going to keep coming for a while. The problem, and part of what we're saying, is that we haven't fixed some of our suspended animation when people get stuck in the system, and so we know that some of that will keep happening. How we convert them and where we are going to convert them to. This 700 case issue, that's going to start in November and December of this year, so staff are preparing for that reality. Those bigger waves yet, families and elderly and disabled, we don't have a timeline on that, and the volume of that is very big, so that's not even mapped out when that will hit. But those are coming, and so I just want to keep telling you where we're at. We're like on kind of stage 2 of the conversion, and there'll be third and fourth waves to come, and then there's all the new cases that still come as well. So those are all going on at once. So that's the MNsure update. The other one I wanted to talk a little bit about, and Bob and I have talked about providing you a little more information on just what MnChoices is at some point, but MnChoice is the other really big project structural change that's happening in human services, is a comprehensive front-end assessment for a bunch of different populations. The waiver programs in public health, all the personal care attendant stuff, so the elderly population that needs those supports, the developmental disability population and all the waivers that go with that. So you hear us talk about CADI, TBI waiver, all those go into this MnChoices. So it's a crossover from a departmental level in 2 units, public health and the DD population, what we call disability services now. So those 2 units are mostly affected, and there's been a lot of changes with how we've come to do staffing. You guys have supported us in improving our staffing, obviously both in MNsure and with this project here. The goals of the assessment are to be more multidimensional than in the past, and so we're going to look at mental health, physical health, safety, personal safety, the work preferences, and caregiver supports. Who do they have in their life that can support what's going on? The good news about this assessment is that it'll show this picture. What it comes out at the end is the dual eligibility issue is if you're eligible for more than one program, rather than coming to this door of human services and then that door and then that door, this comprehensive assessment will just show you what you're eligible for. One of the problems that we're having with MnChoice is that if you're in a state where you're not sure if you're eligible for MA, or if you're not sure if you qualify for a disability, you're in the process, it'll kick you out and say you're not eligible because you can't prove your eligibility. So I think there's some information that we're trying to figure out, making sure that probably not to dissuade people from applying, but if you're in a pending status with those eligibilities, it'd probably be better to work those out first, then be assessed, than to do the assessment, because it's gonna kick you out as ineligible when you might in fact be eligible. So that's some of the stuff we're getting to. There's some technical difficulties that we're looking at. Not all the forms that we need from a staff perspective are embedded in the system yet, but we're getting there. And I think those are the big roadblocks that we're really looking at in that way. Just a couple of statistics. We implemented August 20th, and since August 20th, we've had 22 referrals, which is a big number. And here's the eye-opener, is that it's taking an average of 8 hours to complete the assessment. Exactly. And just back in my clinical background is if you did a diagnostics assessment for mental health, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, that's a full-blown assessment. So this is 4 times that amount. It's a lot of time. Staff have had to sometimes go back and forth to complete the assessment because it's really a full-day activity if you did it all at once. And if you could imagine being interviewed for 8 hours, it's grueling. We do believe that we'll get better at this and condense that, but it's still gonna be a lot longer than what we had prior. And we knew this was coming, but I think there's some serious concern remaining just about how intensive that process is, and that's why we've needed the staff time that you guys have been very generous with. But that's the status of Min Choices and MNsure right now.
I just can't comprehend an application taking 8 hours.
Doesn't make sense.
I was, as you were talking about this and trying to understand this, I'm thinking, geez, I should go down there and go through this process.
Yeah.
Just to see, when you say
Exactly.
8 hours,
Right.
that is just mind-boggling to me.
If you were applying, it might take longer.
I'm sure it would, well, that's what I figured, it'd take twice as long, but to me, that is just,
I think that there's just a, kind of what I call face validity, like, does it look like it's gonna work? It just feels like an awful long time, so.
and I've heard this at MVAC and
Absolutely.
some of the other
It's coming,
programs that I
right.
go to, and I
Yeah,
just-
it's certainly not just a local issue across Minnesota. Everybody's talking about this because it's a big issue. And just, is it something that we can sustain? And the answer is no. So we need to either find shortcuts or radically change the way we do this to scale it down. Because, and one of the other remarks that I'll make just to the board, and we've certainly been talking to the department about this since the planning started, and it's changed some. It's gotten smaller, believe it or not, for where it started from. But the problem with any assessment, just again using my frame of reference from the past, is once it's done, things change. And so, you know, it's nice to do a full-blown assessment and look at all the domains of life. We've talked about that one-stop shop kind of thing, and that's what we're doing here. So instead of 4 assessments for 2 hours apiece, we're doing 1 for 8. Okay, there's the theory. The problem is that after a month, you know, physical health can change, your mental health can change, your housing can change, your support systems can change. And so the validity of how long is that finding gonna be good for is another concern that I have as we go forward, to say, how long is that gonna be a useful kind of picture of where that person's functioning in?
And 4 assessments at 2 hours apiece might not change as fast.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
I might not need 2 of the
Right.
assessments you wanna do, but but
Exactly.
I'm getting all of them in this 8-hour assessment, you know?
Yeah.
So the idea to make it shorter, but it actually makes it longer.
And I think,
Is
you
this
know.
from this, is this more DHS starting?
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, it's gonna make sense that with this natural reaction is that there's gonna be a lot of pressure to streamline this as we go forward. That you start, you know, big and broad and wanna do everything, you know, kind of in an ideal way. We're gonna learn about the pieces that are most important. Obviously, a reassessment can be a lot shorter, so
Right.
this first wave of getting everybody kind of up to speed with this base is gonna be an extra amount of work, and then we'll get better at using this tool, cause that's what it is. Staff wrote to me, tell the commissioners it's not a program, it's a tool, and that's true. It's the front door of these programs. It's not a program unto itself, it's a tool. And we'll get better at using this tool, and I hope scale it back a little bit as we go forward, so.
So the crew of financial workers we had are doing this assessment?
No, so this is actually social workers.
Social
So,
workers,
yeah,
okay.
so the MNsure is obviously all in the financial world, but this is public health
Okay, so
and
this- then
disability services. Yeah, those two.
And how big a group we got taking those applications at this point?
Well, that's a really good question. We have Colleen Fitzpatrick, who does our front door for all of social services on that side, so she's really kind of the intake person. And then we've really had a group of 2 or 3 individuals be trained in doing the assessment pieces, and we've strategically picked people that have been around the block, that know all things, not our newer workers, not the new hires, but to give the assessments to those people that really know how all the network of community resources works. And so they have the burden right now. It's not gonna be enough. We're gonna need to spread that out, but we wanted to kind of contain it and make sure we get good at this and understand the tool, and so we wanted to use some of our most senior people for that process. So there's a small group of those that cross over between disability and public health, and there's been a lot of training, I mean, almost daily, back and forth with DHS trying to figure this process out, so.
Well, good.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Phil.
much, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, Jay?
Chair, Commissioners, the Human Services Committee met on September 11th. Our guest speaker was Ginger Peterson, a fraud investigator for Blue Earth County. She spoke about the services that a fraud investigator provides, two of which really are highlighted. Unreported income and absent parent in the home. Under mental health, the SCCBI Integrated Services Committee has identified unmet mental health service related needs. Those include funding for community-based mental health services, access to inpatient hospital care, transportation, housing, and preventative services. Under social services, we got three. There are a new child protection referral form in place. It will be available on the Blue Earth County website. The North Star Child Care for Children Act takes effect January 1st, 2015. This provides a uniform set of benefits for foster parents and those that adopt foster children. The Social Services Task Force will plan a night of organizing and cleaning the family room at the Blue Earth County Human Services Building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
So,
Thank you all.
okay.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Next time.
Mr. Chair, would you like to do the county board minutes?
Yes.
September 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. The bills?
Move to approve.
There's a
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I had a couple questions still. I had one for
Yep, go
Howard,
ahead,
but-
Drew.
Okay. Just real quick ones too. I mean, I'm sure that they're pretty simple to do, but there's that almost $2 million bill from Mathewitz Construction. I'm assuming that is, up on, 17, but I'm not sure.
It's actually, a lot of it is County Road 17, 1.5 million of it is, but 400,000 is also on the 26 project.
Oh, it is?
Around the lake.
Oh, okay. Is that done yet then, or?
I don't believe it's
I don't think
open yet, but
open
it's
yet.
close.
It's got black top and they're still working on signage and striping.
Oh, okay. So there'll still be a final bill then on that one, probably
Yep.
then, or?
And on 17 yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that Max Johnson Trucking, it's a maintenance contracts for $124,000. I was just wondering.
That's our gravel hauling contract,
That-
annually.
Oh, that we approved before.
Right.
Okay. Second week was Department of Human Services title, is that 19? XIX?
I would imagine it is, yes.
It's $65,000. I don't know what that meant exactly, I just was curious if that's a
Yeah,
routine one, or?
it is Title 19, which is a medical assistance administrative payment. In this particular case, it was an overpayment that DHS made to Blue Earth County, so it's a repayment
So we have
of
to pay it back.
monies that we're returning to the state.
Oh, we couldn't figure out a way of keeping it?
We drew some interest on it.
And then there's a Jeffrey Wilson for building improvements. I think I wrote that down, right? $6,000. I was just wondering what that is, you know, I was just kinda curious.
That's some tiling that was done up at the Justice Center in the jail visitation area, as well as the sheriff's hallway.
Oh, okay.
Some high traffic areas.
Yep, okay. Thanks, that's all I had on those.
Okay.
I had a couple. Angie's Artisan, is that Tarts? I'm not sure what it was. First week.
Oh,
$336.
That's a cost-effective health insurance payment on behalf of a recipient in the Human Services Department, so reimbursing the company for health care that's available to that individual. So
Okay.
medical assistants will pay that premium to keep the costs within that private health insurance rather than the
Good to
state.
know.
is it like Angie's Kettle Corn then, or?
I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but
They got more
Next
corn
one
money.
was Madden Gallanter Hanson
Yeah,
Contracted Services.
that's our labor attorney that's been working with us on, well, all our labor issues, but the majority of that particular bill is with the MNP arbitration, as
Right.
that's continued.
Zarnoff Brushworks. First week. In the Z's.
All the way there at the end.
I'd love to get you working.
Yeah. Well, the description here isn't much help. It says Roscoe Sweep Pro, $420. I don't know if it's maybe the brooms for the sidewalk clearing equipment. I would have to double check, but that's.
Could you just send
sure.
me an email?
Sure.
That'd be good. Kids Peace Corporation. It says correctional facility, so I'm sure something, but I'm just,
That would be an out-of-home placement out of the Human Services Department, so it's a facility that cares for children that need to be placed outside of the home.
okay.
Hmm.
And the last one I have is Yulin Brothers is construction project. Did you have that?
No.
Okay, that's just, I'm sure it's,
Those are overlays, so the countywide overlays, the contract that we approved a few
that's all
weeks
I
back.
have. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm trying to stump the administrator here. Play the music next
Don't-
time.
don't work
I
too
did,
hard.
I did pretty good with that
Yeah,
brushworks thing.
Yeah.
He's pretty good though.
I think
you
you
get
got
the-
one on that one or
Yeah.
not.
You get the
Yep.
prize.
You get the prize, yeah. The first week, Grand Works Backhoe Service Limited Contracted Services. I don't know if that's ditch or is that for road
That's
project?
County Ditch 95 repair.
Okay, that was 95. And just another one with that Richard Nino, maybe that's right away, that's about 11, 10, 9. I just wonder which right away that was. Richard Nino?
It is right away. Let me see if I can get you more information on it.
Won't be left over from County Ditch 57 yet, would it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah, 'cause it's not a lot for.
It's a while ago though.
Yeah.
The description here just says right-of-way, easement, and fee title. I did try and look this up earlier, but when I was looking, the actual invoice wasn't there, so I don't know which project it's associated with, but I can get that information for you.
Well, knowing that much, I'm even half impressed, 'cause that's good. A for effort here, 'cause that's,
think
it's probably something
it's
from
either- and I know we
57
did
way
some
back.
other work
or
on some
something,
of his
yeah.
other-
Just
another
got
ditch
caught
not
up
too
or
long ago,
something, yeah.
It's actually out of the Public Works Department, so I don't think it's associated with
Oh.
the ditch project.
Ken was down there though, wasn't that where 10 goes across or not?
Oh, he might have some land where Ten's
might
going
have.
across,
Could've been
and they're
some
buying
right
right
away
away for
there.
that.
Might be.
Yeah, I would imagine he's got some property over that way.
Okay, it could be. Thank you. Good get.
Or 30.
Okay, anything else?
Oh, no.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Human Resources?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, all the items this morning on the Human Resources agenda are informational items. We have filled a couple of custody officer positions, so we're starting to get close to being fully staffed. I think we have one additional vacancy to fill, so we're probably as close as we've been for a long time in being fully staffed in the jail. We also have filled the on-call library clerk position, as well as a clerical position in the Human Services Department. We did have a lateral transfer of a social worker within the Human Services Department, and so we'll be recruiting to backfill that particular movement. We do have a resignation from a clerk in the Human Services Department. A long-term employee is leaving. And then we have a number of employees that have reached their 6 months of employment and eligible for a salary adjustment based on completing their probationary periods. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Otherwise, the next item is an addendum to our agreement with the University of Minnesota Extension Office. You'll recall that the county board approved county funding to support a nutritional educator in our county extension office. We had approved a 3/4 time nutritional educator. Well, the SNAP funding that previously had funded that position, which was originally cut at the federal level, some of it was reinstated, and per the agreement that we had with the University of Minnesota, they directed those additional funds to the nutritional educator position in Blue Earth County. So they're going to increase the hours for that staff to full-time and take over the full cost of that employee. So we bridged the gap, so to speak, for a few months, and they were very appreciative of the support that the county board showed. So we just need to approve this addendum at this point, and it'll be effective October 6th.
I'll move the addendum.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I think that's a great effort on behalf of the county board in trying to fill that gap.
Yeah. That worked very, very well. I'm pleased with the outcome of that.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
That's all we have, Mr. Chair.
Sounds good. And we will.
One item. if I
Yeah,
could.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead,
I
Drew.
just had, I asked the chair if I could just bring up one item at the end of the meeting. I've tried to use this coast-to-coast free discount prescription card that the county has available for all county residents. And, I was trying to use it for one of my dogs that got ill last year, and it was just hard to use it, and I just kinda gave up on trying to push the issue down at one of our local pharmacies.
To get them cooperating, yeah, wanting to do it.
Yeah, and so, but no, they were listed as being
Right.
in the program, but some of them aren't familiar with it, some of the aides or whatever you call it that help you with that stuff. And so then, this time, I had some surgery done with one of my dogs, and it was costing quite a lot by going through the anyway, up in the cities, a veterinarian. And so, some of those drugs were supposed to be available through your local pharmacy, and I stood there at the counter and I made sure they tried this card, and there's a help number on here that if you call that while you're standing at the counter, the person working at the pharmacy can call and they'll walk them through it. And just to give you an example, I had to buy about 4 drugs that were over $80 a piece, and I got them for about $30.
Really?
All of
Oh,
them for
wow.
about 30?
Yeah.
So, great.
$80 each, and you got them for $30 each?
Yeah.
Oh, $30 each.
That's a huge thing.
That's more than a
Yeah.
50% discount.
Yeah, that's
Just
what
because I stood at the counter and insisted that they use this, because it's listed on the website, I'll just mention that it was Walgreens, and they walked through it, the lady there was just wonderful, she's the manager there and the pharmacist, Ms. Hildebrandt.
I knew you could, I knew you could get your pet,
Yeah.
prescriptions at a pharmacy, 'cause Cubs will do that.
It was
too,
like
right?
$29, and it was supposed to be $82
Wow, that's
for one of my
incredible.
eye drops for my dogs.
That's
And,
incredible.
so the persistence pays off. I just want to say that because on the website it lists, all the different places in Mankato and in Blue Earth County that take this card.
Mhm.
And if you just call this helpline that's on here, to process things, it can save you hundreds of dollars. Just with one time going to the.
That's exciting.
Great.
Yeah, so.
That's great.
And that was for my pet, you know, that was for my pet. And of course, my county insurance doesn't take pets. I wish it did though.
Yeah.
Cause he's kinda part of the family, you know.
Yeah.
Well, for that price, see, I would wanna get mine done at
I
the
don't
vet.
think we wanna add that on with our levy.
No, I don't think so, so.
Anyway, so this card does work. I wanna say it to you, that it does work. It might take a little persistence. And there's a lot of people I bump into in the community that don't know it exists
We
still.
should probably make it, I don't
So-
know if it works with, like Jesse, do another push for the, pushing
Yeah,
the
'cause I'm
card
telling
out
you, it
again.
really saved me,
Yeah.
it saved me way over $100 just that one visit. So,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Drew.
yeah.
That was good.
Okay, so we will,
Move to adjourn.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we will be,
We're going
joint meeting with Nicollet County at 12:30.
Yeah.